Would he be damned by the webcam? Well, Darun Ravi, hope I pronounced that right, faced up to 10 years in prison after being convicted of bias crime and a violation of privacy following the suicide of his roommate, Tyler Clementi. But on Monday, a judge ruled that his crimes did not warrant a tough punishment, sentencing the former Rutgers student to 30 days behind bars. In 2010, if you remember, Clementi, a freshman at the school, jumped off New York City's George Washington Bridge after realizing his roommate Ravi had set up a video cam to record him hooking up with another man. Prosecutors had insisted that Ravi was trying to intimidate Clementi because of his sexuality, but here's what the judge noted.
This individual was not convicted of a hate crime. He was convicted of a bias crime, and there's a difference. I say that because I do not believe he hated Tyler Clementi. He had no reason to. But I do believe he acted out of colossal insensitivity.
All right. This is a tough story because obviously it's a tragedy, Tyler Clementi killing himself. But legally, it's a strange story. What do you, Remy, you're a lawyer, what do you make of this judgment?
You're right. I'm a lawyer. I'm a criminal lawyer in New Jersey. I was in the courthouse this morning when this was going on, and I can tell you a number of things. You ask almost any criminal lawyer, prosecutor, or defense attorney in New Jersey how many invasion of privacy cases that they've been involved in, and I bet you most of them didn't even know we had such a crime on the books.
Wow.
Number two, this was one of the best and most fair and appropriate judges perhaps in the state to have heard this case. And fortunately for the defense, that's so. At the sentencing, what we saw the judge do, in my opinion, was say, this is a terrible case, but let's focus on what he was actually convicted for and not the awful tragedy of Tyler Clementi, because while we all can mourn the death of this young college student, the defendant was not responsible. He was not charged with his death, and he wasn't convicted of his death.
Here's the thing. I agree with you. The thing that always worries me about these cases, Jim, is the impact of the media on something that puts pressure on jurors and judges that can make something. I mean, I don't know if 30 days was fair. I'm still, and I'm going to go back to you on why you would serve, what he's actually serving it for. What do you make of this?
I don't mind him going to jail for 30 days. I agree it wasn't a hate crime, simply because he has hair like the big ragu from Laverne and Shirley. That's kind of enraging. But I also think I think he's a scumbag.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that, I mean, this kid killed himself because he had other issues and things that were bothering. He didn't kill himself because of this guy. But this guy's a scumbag to have invaded his privacy like that.
Yeah.
What if it was an interracial, heterosexual thing and he had filmed him that had shamed the guy and he had killed himself? I mean, so I don't mind seeing this invasion of privacy be punished, because the whole country is built on this voyeurism, and it's kind of annoying me that we feel entitled to look into people's private lives. Like that. So I don't mind seeing him go.
And you have a lot to lose if that's available.
Oh, believe me. I think he's the only one who can get caught doing something.
Yeah,
Please,
exactly.
we all could.
Exactly.
We could all get caught doing something embarrassing.
Yeah. What do you think, Adam?
Not comfortable with him going to jail. I understand the judge's feeling about the colossal insensitivity, and yes, Tyler Clementi's family does deserve. I don't know how you get justice out of the situation, but he's 20-something years old. I mean, when you're this age, you do colossally stupid things.
Yes.
You know, some people do drugs, some people do other things. He did a horrible thing, but 30 days in jail.
And also, he has to live with this, you know, is the scarlet letter of being a scarlet letter J for jerk is going to be with him for the rest of his life. What do you think, Bill?
Well, not cool about making fun of people who have similar hair as mine.
Yeah, that's true. He does. That's who he reminded me of.
I was watching, I'm like, is that a Man on the Street I filmed that I forgot about? Second of all, I actually have a question for you, because one of the things that the judge said in his closing statements is he admonished the guy for never once apologizing. Now, does he not apologize now? Did he not apologize during the trial because that would somehow hurt his...
Yeah, that's a really good question, and
I'm surprised.
Did you hear that, guys?
Bill asked a question that made sense. Remy, quickly.
Up until sentencing, anything the defendant says can and will be used against him, and an apology would be an admission of guilt. It certainly could be inferred or implied, but at the time of sentencing, that's when I would counsel my client to make a very brief apology, especially when there's so much attention on the sentencing. However, I think we need to point out that this kid was looking at 10 years behind bars in state prison, and almost any other judge would have given him at least 5.
You think so?
They were second-degree crimes, and in New Jersey, barring exceptional circumstances, a judge must put the person in, if they're convicted by a jury, for 5 years in state prison. So what the judge did was pretty extraordinary here.
I think he probably was thinking the way you were thinking. He's looking at a kid that's effed up.
Right.
And like he's got the rest of his life to deal with being effed up. And and you can't prove that he caused the other thing, but you know that he's going to be suffering.
Okay, so this is an invasion of privacy in New Jersey. There are cameras in elevators and parking lots throughout the country catching all kinds of things that are winding up on YouTube.
Jim.
And we're going to see these lawsuits, proliferate.
Well, also just being like that. My whole thing is like he went to jail for 30 days for basically being a scumbag, but is being a scumbag against the law.
No, but the invasion of privacy, what bothers me so much about this, and you're right about YouTube and stuff, but this was a purposeful humiliation of somebody in a situation where they had
tweeted to the friends.
every reason to believe they had complete and utter privacy. This was an absolute invasion.
Is it an invasion if somebody does it it's your room? Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's your home, it's the sanctuary.
But
It's your room
And
too. I mean, you're sharing a room.
Clemente went to the school and said, "Get me out of this."
Yeah.
I mean, what about the school? When are they held accountable?
Well, there might be civil. There might be a civil
There
case.
will be, no doubt. There'll be civil lawsuits.
I think what lawyers like Remy and I would say is a reasonable expectation of privacy.
Yes,
Greg.
they're very good. Well, you convinced me on that. We got to take a break. Do you have a comment on the show? Email us. It's redeye@foxnews.com. And to leave a voicemail, my direct line, 212-462-5050. Still to come, the halftime report from TV's Andy Levy. Can't stand it.
Tonight's halftime report is sponsored by Cheeseburgers. Those patties of ground meat that are broiled, grilled, or fried, topped with cheese and served on a bun. Thanks, Cheeseburgers.